Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Now in about 3 hours or 2.5 hours from now we are gonna get the final meta of the Battleground season, and Crit Me With Your Best Shot meta is the most unique meta we have had already before and we are gonna have now. It is so unique because you can only do damage with big yellow numbers or crits through block. Nothing else works. No burst damage, no damage over time effects, nothing. No critical shocks, none of that stuff. It's either a big yellow number or a crit through block. It's important to note that with these node combinations, any champion can crit through block. However, this opens up a completely different side of MCOC with a ton of very interesting interactions and a lot of champions gaining a ton of value and being very powerful, and a lot of champions just not functioning, like Human Torch, Archangel, Scorpion, so on and so forth. And I have made this video before, but as the meta is about to start, I know for a fact a ton of people will still have some confusion and could benefit from a reminder. Therefore, I, as always, try to do a timely video. And number one, we are going to be talking about offense and the fact that any champion will be able to KO a vanilla opponent. Champions that normally would time out, like Mephisto or something like that, they will work because they will crit all the time. So a lot of champions will be viable offensively to finish fights. Things, Mephisto, so on and so forth. But the mistakes that people are thinking about Crit Me With Your Best Shot meta is they are naturally leaning towards the champions that in the game normally have big yellow numbers. A great example is that everybody immediately thinks that, Corvus or Moleman, for instance. Moleman is a great example. Everybody thinks, Moleman guaranteed crits, Moleman's going to be awesome. Here is the reality. Moleman is going to be worse than he normally is and worse than most of the champions. And the reason for that is because you will lose all his bleed damage. There is no fury or anything else. And since he normally crits, well, the nodes don't benefit him at all. So Moleman is... you can use him, but he's not going to be great. And that is the big problem. People think about these champions like that crit a lot, has a ton of yellow numbers normally, that those are going to be the best. No, they will not be the best. The best champions are going to be champions that have large modified attacks, like Kingpin. Kingpin's going to be insane because he gains tons of furies, and even though he normally doesn't crit a lot, thanks to the node, he's going to get guaranteed crits, and his damage output is going to go through the roof. So what you are primarily focusing on are big prowesses, big furies, cruelty buffs. Those are like the most important things. Perhaps physical vulnerabilities or energy vulnerabilities to help you as well. But anything that would increase your hit damage, regardless of your crit rate. The bigger the furies, the better. That is kind of the most important thing. The second thing is, everybody is going super haywire of all the projected nuke type champions. Reality is, Crit Me With Your Best Shot meta is going to be won or lost largely on your defense, on your mistakes. Because there are going to be a ton of champions that everybody's going to be super, super excited that they can include and they're going to do tons of damage. I don't know, your Mantis, your Gamoras, your Rockets, or what have you. All of these, Sunspots, nuke type champions, everything. In reality, though, when you're going to play your Battlegrounds match, what is going to decide whether you win or lose is whether you will have counters to the trap defenders. And I will go over some of the most important trap defenders. Like Nick Fury is going to be better because he's going to get 2 full lives. Because, Nick Fury is effectively not going to take any degen damage. So even Sig 1 Nick Fury is going to have 2 full health pools. Still not necessarily a trap defender, just something you should be aware. But here we can start. This is a trap defender. You can have the fastest, the highest damage output champions, but unless you have a champion with an armor up, Alex can KO you. It's pretty much as simple as it comes. Because not only Havoc will slow you down because of inequity and the debuffs that he places on you and the fact that he reduces critical damage by half, also the fact that whenever you crit against him, you're going to get a plasma placed on you, and you have to crit in order to do damage, and when when there are plenty of plasmas placed on you, you take a ton of damage. So realistically, only kind of like mainstream viable solution to prevent that is going to be have a tech champion with an armor up. So a champion who has a Havoc to place on defense, so a player who has a Havoc to place on defense, and let's say is left with a Mephisto to deal with whatever defender you place, will probably beat you. Regardless of how fast your nuki attackers are, if they're going to take a ton of damage, you're going to lose. And similar to Toad, a lot of things that people forget, obviously, that Regen is going to come in clutch for Toad, but another thing that is going to be a good example here is that Toad has significantly higher chance to poison you if you land a critical hit on him. And even if you're poison immune, there's still a good chance you're going to get passively stunned unless you're careful. So Toad is definitely something to be wary of as well. Moving on, Captain America Britain. There aren't going to be that many great counters to her because every time you crit against her, she's going to put exhaustion on you. That is going to be a debuff that's synergized with Inequity Mastery, and then on top of it, it also reduces your critical damage. The only real way how to nuke her down quickly is if you have a champion that purifies, something like Kingpin or potentially Shang-Chi, and you can get rid of those exhaustions. If you can't, you're gonna get stuck regardless of how hard you originally hit. Mr. Sinister is a similar case. Mr. Sinister in this meta is going to be unkillable unless you have a heal block or a ton of debuffs and max Despair Mastery. And again, your nuke options necessarily will just not matter because this meta is all about having the answers to tricky defenders. Mr. Sinister is definitely one of them. Similarly, Warlock. Warlock can't take any crit damage as long from special attacks as long as he has an armor up active. If you can't get that off, you're going to be left with only your basic hits. So a lot of champions will not have access to majority of the damage, and meanwhile you're still probably going to be taking damage from your infections and whatnot. So Warlock is another problem trap defender and attacker. Moving on, Nova is very simple. Nova requires you to occupy extremely narrow attacker range, where Nova takes 70% less damage from guaranteed crits, unblockables, or true strike hits. And that means that only way to really take down Nova well is use a champion that crits a lot naturally, but it's not guaranteed. Something like CGR, Stealth Suit Spider-Man, something of the sort. Because as soon as you start landing guaranteed crits on Nova, he's going to supercharge, go unblockable, you're going to do hardly any damage, and you're going to have a very, very, very hard time. So, this is where I'm getting at. It doesn't matter if Mantis does 5 million damage on a single hit, or it's a rocket, or it's a sunspot, or something else. What matters is whether you have countermeasures for these champions. Similarly, well, Mephisto, I remember being extremely potent in this meta as well, because he's great at stalling time, plus requires Incinerate, plus that, healing to stall you, Mephisto is going to be good, but Ebony Maw is a definition of a trap defender. Again, unless you have Science Champion, because Science Champions do not miss on guaranteed critical hits against him, unless you have a Science Champion to take him on, there are very, very few champions that will do well against Ebony Maw. Like Stealth Suit Spider-Man, like Hercules or CGR, for instance. Otherwise, you kind of done it. And Mansing, there will be very few counters to Manting. Again, ideally you need some sort of ability to be poison immune or deal with those poisons, but it's not just that, because you're going to be doing so little damage that vast majority of the champions will just time out against Manting. Rhino is very similar as well, where you are guaranteed to get hit in the face unless you're using somebody that has slow or is called the Valkyrie. Because he's going to go unstoppable and intercept, and you need to intercept him. And what you gonna do then? Again, you need slow, or you need Valkyrie, or you're gonna take damage, and you're not gonna have a good time. And that is how this meta is going to function. It's not gonna be all necessarily who's the fastest or whose nuke is the biggest. It's about whether you have like Omega Sentinel for opponents, Mr. Sinister. It's about whether you have Valkyrie for a Rhino, whether you have a Science Champion for Maw. Not how many big nukes you have in your deck. But speaking offensively, we definitely need to mention Kingpin. Kingpin's going to be an absolute chad on offense. And then we're going to have Massacre. Massacre is going to basically level 2 nuke anyone in the block. So get his bat ignited, intercept the opponent once, land your level 2 in the block, everything dies. Then we're going to have Valkyrie, similar principle. She's going to do a ton of damage to block with guaranteed crits. Stealth Suit Spider-Man is going to be very important champion for these metas because, again, he's going to not only be able to deal with things and some other champions that you'd normally use him for, but he's going to be one of the very few champions that can destroy Nova. He's going to be one of the very few champions that can deal with Ebony more well, thanks to his bypass miss mechanic. And something like Miles Morales, potentially, that could also be a problem. So definitely don't sleep on Stealthy. Bishop is in that level 2 nuke category, is a relatively solid dual-purpose champion. Get to level 2, he's pretty much going to destroy anything. Storm, OG Storm is going to be crazy insane because she's going to gain prowesses, on every guaranteed critical hit. So she's going to ramp up mega fast. So obviously she is going to do a ton of damage. But for instance, I have a rank 4 Storm and I'm not sure whether she will make my deck. And the reason for that is because when I'm going to be building my deck soon, I will need to find answers to the problems, to the Novas, to the Man-Things, so on and so forth. And obviously include those champions in my deck. Ghost will function as normal. Mysterio is here because he's going to be one of the best domino counters. There aren't going to be that many great domino counters. That's why I'm also pointing out War Machine. War Machine is probably going to be, for many people, one of the most solid option against dominoes because 7-star exists. We're going to have Warlock. Again, great offensive champion because of his level 2 armor breaks and massive crit damage. And ability to stop something like Sinister and Havoc. So Warlock is going to be tremendously useful. Omega Sentinel is going to be tremendously useful. CGR, again, with his ability to bypass miss, with his ability to inflict high amount of critical hit damage without them necessarily having to be guaranteed crits. Hulkling obviously is going to hit like a tank, is still going to function fine. Herc, level 2, destroy everything. And Hercules is also going to be very good on defense. It's a stall type of champion because that's going to be important in this meta. Chavez, still going to function great. She should have great amount of damage. Juggernaut should be able to nuke everything as normal. She-Hulk is going to be on steroids because she does get her passive furies. And then everything kind of just dies. And because of her passive ability to taunt the opponents, well, she's going to force a very fast-paced playstyle, which is going to be helpful. And then we have Joe Fixit. Great science champion, again, one of the few champions capable of destroying Man-Things. Super important. Hulk is going to be great. If you have 7-star, you're very lucky. And OG Spider-Man, if you have him awakened at decent high sig, he's going to be a solid defender because, again, evade is something that they will have to be able to counter on top of everything else. And then he's going to be basically a champion where you intercept just before your level 2, drop your level 2, and kill anything that's still moving. So that is kind of like the short end summary. But again, keep in mind that Crit Me With Your Best Shot meta is going to be a lot different than many people imagine in their heads right now, especially if you haven't played it in the first, if you haven't played it before, or if you played it before in relatively low level. The key to Crit Me meta is going to be this chess in between defenders. Whether you have somebody with heal block when you need it, whether you have somebody with miss counter when you need it, whether you're going to have somebody that's poison immune and can destroy Man-Thing, whether you're going to have somebody with slow to deal with Rhino, stuff like that. Not necessarily which one of the champions will have slightly higher amount of crit damage. Super important to know that. Other than that, well, I will be building my initial deck. That might be another video, I suppose. Anyways, or I will be doing it just before my live stream. Who knows? Either way, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you guys find it useful. Again, I know this is a bit of a repetitive one, but with the timing considered, I think it's a good time to release it. So, I'm going to catch you guys soon. Bye-bye! Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information